Darlington, how you living this week? Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Doing well. Enjoying this cold weather. We're just in Florida, but enjoying being back home.
The craziest thing, though, Allen, is that Darlington is African by descent, but definitely Ohio by being raised. He's the only African I've ever known that said, "Hey, Ja, I prefer to play in cold weather." So don't let it fool you. You know, don't let it fool you.
He did say it was good to leave Florida for the cold weather. He did. I did catch that.
A little cold breeze on the face, man. It feels good. Sweaty and muggy down there. Oh man.
When did you realize that soccer was going to be a ticket for you?
Like I don't remember a moment, where I wasn't like I didn't feel like I was good at soccer.
That is the most Darlington Nagbe flex you will ever get. I don't know if y'all caught that. He said, "I don't remember a time in my life where I wasn't good." I just want people to know that's what you said.
This is New Ground with Allen Hopkins Jr. Let's go. And Jalil Anibaba.
We are back and we are better. The best show on your soccer radio. New Ground, the epicenter and the home for melanin-rich conversations about life, footy, soccer, whatever you call it. We hope that each and every time you plug in, you find yourself in this show. Allen Hopkins Jr., Jalil Anibaba. So glad you could join us. Jalil, how you living this week?
Yeah, you know me. It's match day 1 approaching as far as MLS is concerned. Season is about to start. We've done a lot of prepping and laying the groundwork in terms of what it's actually like to get yourself prepared for a season of any league and any magnitude. But there is a lot of exciting stuff that goes into that behind the scenes, on the side of the scenes, in front of the scenes, and just living it. So what I'm really excited about is the fact that we're bringing on a dope guest. We're also going to be really putting a cap on that real runway up into a season. And then after this week, we'll shift gears just a little bit.
It is such a great time in the year, really, when you think about the run up from the end of Cup and the anticipation of the off season. And then you get through the holidays and then you get to preseason. Before we really get into the show, Jalil, what is it like for a player to have successfully navigated the preseason? You're healthy, you're informed, you're ready to go. What's that real feeling like, knowing that the hardest part of the season in so many ways is behind you, but the most important part of the season is still in front of you?
Yeah, it's, again, very exciting. You have a feeling of coming up for air in a way that you feel good about the work that you've put in most often. And you're also very excited to get back into your market. If you've moved places or you're coming into a
Great
new
point.
team, this is what you're excited about, getting into your new crib. You're also excited about maybe flying your family in or getting back with your family. And those things and those sentiments really make it all real, because preseason is where you go away to earn your stripes. And then you're coming back home now to be able to put all that hard work into a regular routine in and around your people, the favorite restaurants that you got links at, all these types of vibes you've been looking forward to getting back to. And you earn the right in a weird way to be home and comfortable in your most loved confines.
It's interesting. One of the conversations I had in Coachella was this whole idea about the preseason and the whole idea that it's important, but it doesn't matter. Can you recall a club in your long career, 12 seasons, where the preseason was not ideal, but the season was, and vice versa, where you had a banging preseason, but the season didn't play out? Was there ever a situation you can think of where those two just didn't match up? The math wasn't mathing from the preseason to the season.
Yeah, in 2015, when I was with Sporting Kansas City, I was new to the team that year, and like we've been talking about a lot, what it's like to actually integrate oneself into a new environment. So I was, balancing that out, having a good time doing it, because our roster was full of amazing guys. You're talking about Roger Espinoza. Shout out to him, by the way, just getting announced as assistant coach with the first team and also doing player
Very
development
cool.
as well. Graham Zusi, Ike Opara, Heraldo Carrasco, these types of guys, and it was just the vibes were amazing. Abdul Salam was in his rookie year, so we had so many dope guys, Dom Dwyer as well. But for me, I was trying to figure out, where I fit in with everything and figured that out during preseason, but results just
Mm.
weren't popping. We we had a lot of new faces. I don't know what it was. We had some guys coming back from injury, Ike, Chance Myers, they were coming back. So the team wasn't complete, and henceforth, we didn't do well in preseason. But we essentially started the season off and hit the ground running, had some very good results. And when we picked our heads up before the international break, right around early
Mm.
summer, we were around second or third in the conference, and we were balling. So preseason is about, like we said earlier, making sure that you're getting everything together, getting yourself fit. And the results are definitely not as important as the team cohesion, but don't get it twisted. People are trying to win preseason games, and
I know.
people are still talking a lot of trash.
That's right. That's for sure. And there's that healthy tension anyway, because the coaching staff, they know that winning begets winning. So you really can't get your culture right if it's not surrounded by wins and positive results. So you definitely feel that, particularly when you head into phase two of the preseason. Julian, when we think about where we ended last season, the awards that were handed out, one of the most difficult things to do is to be a consistent performer at the top level year in, year out. And even if you are, it doesn't mean that you always get the accolades and the receipts. 2024 Landon Donovan MLS MVP winner Lionel Messi trying to do something that hasn't been done before. Do you think he can repeat as being the MVP in Major League Soccer?
Can the greatest player to ever play this game be the MLS MVP in back-to-back years? Absolutely.
Well, when you
I
say it that way.
abso absolutely. The one thing about Messi is there's rarely any doubt as far as what he can accomplish because he's amazed us and blessed us with so many big time moments that you as a fan, or I don't know if you are Portuguese and only love Cristiano Ronaldo, so maybe as someone who is devastated by the feats of Messi's success, no pun intended, is that he's gonna deliver. For me, what I'm looking at is how entertaining is it gonna continue to be? Because people thought there
Mm.
was gonna be a little bit of a lull in terms of what they were gonna do in 2024. Is Suarez actually fit? And all of those questions were pleasantly answered to all of the Miami fans out there. It'll be awesome to see what they do, but what Miami has done since Messi has arrived at South Beach with all of his homies is they've also risen the level of competition throughout the league, though.
That's
Everyone
right.
else knows that they gotta be on their P's and Q's, especially when they play against Miami, but I think most importantly, in order to achieve the highest heights in MLS now, that the standard of achievement has to be much higher, generally speaking, than it was before.
I think it's interesting. Landon Donovan only won the award once in 2009. The last American to win the award, and one of the good dudes in the league, Mike McGee, in 2013 was the last American to win MVP. Preki in 97, and also in 2003, a two-time winner. So it's very difficult. But as Jalil said, if the greatest player to ever do it is still playing, there's a chance that he can still write history in MLS. Equally as hard is winning the Golden Boot. Do you think Christian Benteke can build on what he did a year ago and be the last man standing in terms of leading the league in goals?
First of all, shout out to the homie Mike McGee. That 2013 season was absolutely crazy. He comes
Yeah,
in the
it
summer,
was.
revamps our team in Chicago, goes off and, scores, and I think it was like 13 or 14 games straight in all
Right.
competitions. We made a little bit of a run in Open Cup as well, got into the playoffs. Just an absolutely
Great shout.
just potent killer in front of goal and in and around the attacking area. It was awesome playing with McGee and historic. One thing that a lot of people don't remember about that year, though, is he was about to do the double. He had not only he was the front runner to be MVP going into decision day, and he held the golden boot. We scored in
Wow.
decision day, or he scored rather, the first goal against Red Bull on decision day. We thought we were gonna win and be solid and all that stuff. We ended up getting clapped in the end of the game, but that's
Uh-oh.
another story. McGee was leading the golden boot race over Camilo by 2 goals, and Camilo and Vancouver played on the West Coast, so they played later than us. Camilo scored a hat trick. McGee lost out on golden boot.
Mm,
So he would have
mm.
had golden boot and MVP that year, just a caveat. Can Benteke repeat as the
Love
golden
that
boot winner
story.
in 2025? It's possible, and I think, again, he's gonna have to have an absolute blowout year for DC, for them to be, a playoff team and making a run deep into the playoffs. But I personally think that we're gonna see the Golden Boot go somewhere else because there are a lot of potent attacking players that have, I would say, more support around them. So it's
Mm.
gonna be interesting to see how that prospect plays out.
One of the things that is going to be talked about the 30th year of MLS, we have 30 MLS teams now. San Diego FC is in. They begin their maiden voyage in Major League Soccer. So, where do you think they'll fall in their first season in MLS?
They've had a solid preseason. They've had an inspiring one in terms of scoring a lot of goals. It seems like the team has come together very quickly. There's no surprise to that because you have your star in Chucky Lozano. You have veterans like Anibal Godoy, Ima Boateng, who understand this league. And you mix all of that up with the energy that is just innate within players within an organization in their expansion year, having gone through it before in Nashville in 2020. There is, that extra kind of jet fuel that you're working with to
Mhm.
your advantage. And so I'm always looking at what's the roster construction look like? Is this team going to be competitive enough? Do they have the pieces? And the answer for me with San Diego is yes. I don't see a roster that is so far behind that they're going to need to limp into the season and trying to figure their way out. They're trying to compete just by how they've set this team up. And recent history would tell you that that is actually the task of
Mm.
of an expansion team. That's actually the status quo. When you look at
That's
us in
true.
Nashville in
That's true.
2020, we
That's
made the
very, very
playoffs
true.
4 years in a row. When you look at St. Louis, their first year, they got into the playoffs and were literally one of the best teams in the West the entire run. So it's no longer where you're expected to struggle as an expansion team. The status quo of expansion teams as of late is to get into the playoffs.
No team has repeated as the Shield winners since LA in 2010 and 2011. Inter Miami now have the most points ever in league history, besting New England from a couple of years prior. Do you think Inter Miami has what it takes again, outside of course, having the GOAT, to win the Shield? Remember, Tata is no longer there. Javier Mascherano is their head coach. A little bit of a learning
Mhm,
curve there in
mhm.
MLS in terms of how to navigate. Do you think they're going to be the team to beat in the league? And with that, who are the teams that you think will win the Shield in each conference?
Yeah, I think Miami again always has the opportunity to compete for silverware. It'll be contingent on health, I would like to think, and availability and things like that. A lot of eyeballs are going to be on Mastrano and seeing if he has what it takes to be, a top team manager, not just a youth national team manager or any of those things. You would like to think that his history with the big three, the big four, however you want to number it
Mhm.
or class it in Miami, will pay dividends for them. But I'm also looking at LAFC. I'm also looking at the Galaxy to run away with things as well. What's Columbus going to look like with a revamped or a different front facing team without Cucho Hernandez and without Christian Ramirez? So
Mm.
for me, there's a lot of prospects, and I'm not so much of a prediction guy because at the end of the
Right.
day, I like to see how things unfold. And MLS has so much parity, and there are so many teams that have revamped themselves it's impossible to say how it's going to go. But one thing that I know is for the neutral, this season will be very interesting and exciting week in and week out.
I am looking forward to this season. Match day 1 is here. CONCACAF Champions League underway. It's all happening again, and 24/7 footy for the next few months with Europe firing on all cylinders and the American soccer landscape getting underway with MLS's 30th campaign kicking off here. Speaking of kicking off, what an amazing opportunity we have coming up on the other side of the break. One of the best to ever do it, the GOAT himself, the Columbus Crew captain, 4-time MLS Cup winner, and one of the best to ever grace the fields here. Darlington Nagbe stops by to cover new ground. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to SiriusXM FC Channel 157. Joining us to cover new ground this week, one of the all-time greats in Major League Soccer, one of the best players to ever do it. He is the captain of the Columbus Crew, heading into season number 15, none other than Darlington Nagbe. Darlington, how you living this week? Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. Doing well. Enjoying this cold weather. We're just in Florida, but enjoying it. Enjoying being back home.
The craziest thing, though, Alan, is that Darlington is African by descent, but definitely Ohio by being raised. He's the only African I've ever known that said, "Hey, Ja, I prefer to play in cold weather." So don't let the descent fool you. You know, don't let it fool you.
He did say it was good to leave Florida for the cold weather. I did catch that. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. A little cold breeze on the face, man. It feels good. Sweaty and muggy down there. Oh man.
So how's everything going? How was preseason? How are you feeling being back in and around the family? Where's your mental at going into the 15th season of your career?
No, I feel good. I feel good. 15 years in. Now at this point, you start questioning everything, Is preseason really, is it harder than it used to be, or is it just am I getting old, or what is it? You know what I mean? But I don't know. I feel good though. I feel good. I'm always gauging, looking at everybody else, seeing how they're feeling. But overall, I feel good. Feel like I'm keeping up still with the guys. A lot of young guys on the team these days. It's crazy, man. I'm almost their father, so it's just wild looking at them. But feel good though. Feel good. Good to be back home. Kids, family excited for another season. We'll see what Felicia feels once we get going into things. She's traveling everywhere solo, but we'll see though.
Darlington, have you had a moment where you realize that your teammates are very young and you're not so much? Is there a couple of times where you looked across the locker room and had to do a double
Yeah.
check in terms of understanding just how long 15 years as a professional is in this
hmm
league comparison to the young guys who can run all day and
hmm
trying to win everything in
Yeah.
preseason?
Yeah, definitely. I look around, locker room before when I first got here was a lot of experience, a lot of veterans. A lot now we have a lot of young guys, especially guys that are some young guys that have taken a good step. Also, I should say, not just young, but they can play as well. So, they're here for a reason. But it's just interesting. The conversations, that Jai and I used to have are different than the conversations they're having. So, I'll just hear what they're talking about. I keep it pushing, keep it moving. Unless it's something I feel like I can make a point or participate in, I just keep it moving. But it's good though. I think that's a good thing about this job. You got veterans and then you got really young guys, so you get to mix that in different cultures, different age groups. So definitely makes for a good time.
Yeah, and it also too, as you get more experienced, it keeps you young in thought, young in
hmm
heart as well.
Mhm.
And also, like you said at the top, you fortify the fact that even though I may be longer in the tooth, I could still, you know,
hmm
anybody could catch this smoke. So
hmm
when it comes to you though, honestly, you are probably by definition the silent assassin in MLS. I want to know though, and the people want to know as well, where does your style, your brand of football come from? Because
hmm
I don't
Great
think that
question.
we can say we've ever
hmm
seen a player in MLS quite like Darlington Nagbe.
hmm No, I don't know. Obviously, I was born in Liberia. I don't think a lot of people knew, but I grew up in Europe, and then I moved here when I was 10. So I lived in France for 6 years. So I was born during the war, so we left right away, and then went to France, and I was there 6 years, 4 years in Greece, and then so that's 10 years right there. And then I moved to Cleveland when I was 10. So no, just the culture that I would say probably playing, it's less organized, so you're playing any surface, any type of ball, whatever it is, wherever you can find a game. I think you just pick up certain skills, playing in those games. You know, you're playing so much as well. You're playing before school when you get dropped off, playing at lunch, playing at recess. You play after school waiting to get picked up. You know, so like you're getting you're getting so many touches on the ball. You know, just on concrete, on terrible grass, on some, you know what I mean, on every type of surface and every type of ball. So I think you just naturally, you know, you build certain skill sets and touches on the ball and, you know, certain ideas of what things should look like, you know. And I just watched a lot of soccer growing up. I feel like it's a combination of those things, you know. I always tell the guys I feel like nothing's by accident. When you see someone, no matter what they do, you know, there's certain experiences that they've had, you know, or people that they've been around that brought them to where they're at.
No, that's a great question. Darlington Nagbe joining us here on New Ground, because now when I see someone doing something Jalil knows, I'll text him like, "Oh, that looked like Darlington. Oh, Emeka, that was like a little Darlington touch, right?" And you know, he's heard me say that whenever I see a little hezzy and drawing that defender in and then spinning out of the contact, out of the pressure, I'm like, you're really influencing a whole generation of players. And you mentioned your locker room now. You've lost some big names and you've lost some championship players. How do you make sure that you be true to who you are, but also be intentional, because some of that muscle memory from winning a championship in this league is no longer there? If you think about Cucho, Christian, y'all, you had some real ballers there who are no longer there. You mentioned the young guys stepping in, but what's been your approach to make sure that everyone knows the standard is the standard no matter who's here and who's in the 11 or playing that day?
No, I think just, you know, I think the thing for me is, you know, I always train how I'm gonna play. So I think it just starts in training. You know, I love to be available. I love to train. So I think for me, just being available every day, you know, I'll be 35 soon, but you know, I think when guys see me out there still working, still training, you know, still putting in the work on and off the field, you know, I think they just it doesn't give them an excuse. And I think they try to follow and, you know, and take the path that I've taken to make sure they can have a successful career as well. So I think the thing for me, I just like to compete. You know, I like to win. I like to do things the right way. And I think everything else just follows. You know, just compete and do it the right way, and the rest will follow.
Yeah, I think, you know, for those of us that know you very well, it's very evident that you love what you do. Very, very evident that there's no mistake that you've risen to the level that you've risen to, because you love every single part of the process. You don't skip steps. You're not a designated player or a leader that doesn't train on a Wednesday because your calf is a little sore. Like, never that. So, but you're also, for real though. For real, it's true.
But I just love the idea of him not taking pro days. You know, I used to get on rookies sometimes about taking pro days. I'm like, "Hey, bro, like, did you earn that pro day yet?" Like, you know, so
a rookie taking a pro day, that's an oxymoron, for real. For me though, D, what is very clear to me is that you're a type of person that internalizes a lot. Ironically, we're doing an interview, but you don't really say too much. But once you get on the field though, it's very, very clear that footy is an expression for you. You are very expressive in how you play, and it's very smooth and evident. So with the fact that you have 3 kids, with the fact that your wife Fee is also an athlete in her own right, how do you guys try to weave in the importance that of life lessons that sports teach your kids? Why is that important for you guys, and what do you want your kids to take away from sports?
Oh man, that's my favorite thing about sports. Just the lessons you learn. You know, I always tell the guys just, you know, I would never go back to the previous age that I was. You know, guys, you might hear people saying, "Oh, when I go back to when I was 20 or this or that." I'm like, I can't even go back like 2 weeks or 3 weeks earlier. I learned so much. You know what I mean? What I learned in that 2, 3 weeks, like I don't want to go back without knowing that. You know, I think and it's all been through sports. Like everything I've learned has been through sports, obviously through relationships as well. But just I learned from your experience here. You know, I learned from Jonah's experience here. I'm learning from Steve's experience here, you know. So it's not just my experience. I'm always looking at my teammates and seeing what's going on in their life. How can I learn from that? You know, obviously help them out with it. But then how can I learn from that in case, you know, my kids at one point need that certain type of help? I might not have gone through it, but I know someone that's gone through it, and this is how they handle it. You know, my kids playing, you know, I think it's just so important for them. You know, they're just at an age now. My daughter Mila, she's 11, and then Kason is 9. We're just seeing how they operate with their teammates. You know, how they handle winning, how they handle losing, how they handle working together. How do they handle when they know they've had a good game, but maybe the team didn't? What do they say? You know what I mean? Are they blaming teammates, or are they kind of, how can I pick everyone up? You know, So just all these little things I think you learn when you're a part of a team, a part of a group. That's why I love, I think everyone should play sports at any level, whether it's super competitive or rec or whatever it is. I think you learn a lot about yourself. And seeing my kids play different sports too, I wish I did that growing up with this. They learn how to, I feel like you learn how to train to become better at something. That soccer is just comes natural to them because they've been around it so long, but they play baseball, softball, basketball. So see them learn and practice how to get better at those sports, I think it's good. Helps them how to train for soccer as well.
When Darlington and we had a chance to catch up last preseason in Santa Barbara, and one of the things that really stuck with me, Darlington, was how much you felt this part of your journey was about your family and your kids, and sort of putting on for them in a way in which they could sort of see what excellence is and sort of model that behavior. It was a really cool moment last year as you received the Audi Progress Impact Award, and the way they did it, they tricked you, having your mom jump in there. What was that like to have your mother, who I know you love and you have the deepest amount of respect for, basically be able to let you know, hey, you're done right by my name, by us, by what we're doing. Tell us about what that was like for a player who's won and you have the accolades, but to have an honor like that, like the Audi Progress Impact Award, and what that meant for you to have your mother be the one to tell you that you were being honored.
No, it was huge. I mean, what an award. Obviously, thankful to the MLS and Audi for that award, and the reward that's going to have a great impact on the Boys and Girls Club of Central Ohio. They do such a great job there, and I was just honored to be able to help them in any way possible. And then my mom, I think the thing with her is just, her upbringing and how she raised us. She's just most proud of moments like that. I think she enjoys that I play soccer and that I have fun, but I think an award like that, that represents the type of human that I am and how she raised us, and how type of people that she wants us to be. When people meet her, and they talk about me as a person first, and then the player, or she doesn't even care about the player, but when they talk to her about how I am as a person and tell her she did a good job, that goes a long way. And that's more satisfying than anything I could do on the field. So, I just try to raise my kids the same way, and hopefully they try to please me the same way. I just try to be a good person for her. And hopefully my kids, one day they can do the same thing no matter what their career paths are in life.
And that perfectly segues me into what I want to talk about next, which is the sacrifices that your mom put forth, in terms of raising you guys in multiple parts of the world. But, you and I, we've had conversations about what it was really like for you guys growing up in Ohio in the cold winters, trying to get to training sessions, what it was like between you and your older brother fortifying your bond and your younger sister as well. Talk about, what you still carry with you in terms of those times when you guys were just together as a family, relying on yourselves, to now still doing that, but in a way where you can look back and say, hey, look, all these sacrifices were not only worth it, but they also are what bring us so much pride as a family.
Yeah, definitely. And I think growing up, it's like I've been asking myself this now with my kids because they're growing up differently than I grew up. My father wasn't around, so I try to be as present as possible, as much as I can with my kids. With everything that we do, I just try to make sure that, I can get them to practice, get them to training, and spend as much time with them as possible, and just let them know. I feel a lot of people try to prove people wrong, but I think it's more important to prove people right. So many people, not just my mom, but there's been so many people within our lives that help us come to where we are now. It's not, like I said, it's not by accident. Obviously your parents and your mom or father play a big role in that, but then there's been coaches along the way. There's been teammates along the way. There's been families along the way that have taken, maybe give you rides here. I had the Cook family, Mr. and Mrs. Cook. They would fly me out to tournaments, drive me anywhere we had to go just so I can participate in those tournaments and those games, not because they wanted me to, but just they saw like that they could do it, and it would be really helpful to my family. So I'm just grateful for everyone that's helped me along the way. Hopefully my kids get a chance to see that as well, just to be good humans, which they already are. They continue to be good humans, but like I said, sports is huge, and there's a lot of lessons that they're going to learn that they're already learning from sports.
And D, I have to ask you, how do you raise your kids to be humble and to understand how to strive for things and struggle when they have everything financially? Whether it's they open up the fridge, they got everything up in there. When it's cold outside, they could go and jump in the heated pool. When it's hot outside, they could sunbathe if they want to. How do you teach them to still learn the importance of struggling to make sure that they are very, very strong when they're in the same seats or even higher seats that we're in now?
Love that.
Oh man, great question. I feel like I'm still learning that as well. Finding ways to motivate them. My she's internally motivated, so I've had no issues with her. Honestly, she's been easy, but my middle boy, my youngest is 6, so he's just still figuring it out. But thanks to my 9-year-old, he has some of me in him. You know me, Jai. You know me. It's like I'm trying to I'm trying to raise him to be better than me. He's good. Once he gets there, he's fine.
Yep.
But it's like getting him to do something, getting him to want to go train, getting him to want to read, to want to do his homework. You know what I mean? I know how I was when I was his age, and I needed certain like rewards. I never needed motivation with soccer because I knew it is what it is. Like I knew I had to do this to get that. But I'm trying to teach him that just academically as well. As a person as well as just okay. If you don't want to train, well, you can't get this. If you don't read, you can't get this. It doesn't have to be cash reward or anything like that, but more. For example, he likes bike riding. You can't ride your bike if you don't read. You can't use the roller skates if you don't do this. So it's attaching little rewards to a certain behavior. I think that's what I've tried to use. Obviously, I wish he could be like my daughter. Like I don't got to attach anything to it. She's just up and ready to go. Like this is good for me. I'm gonna get better doing this and that. Dad, can you help me do this? That's how she is. But with my son, and I'm learning with them as well. Everyone's different. How do I talk to you is different than how I talk to Alan. What motivates you is different than what motivates Alan. So I was seeing that with my own kids, my own household, how different they are. Same mom, same dad, raised the same way, but they're just internally different. So it's attaching little rewards, to my boys and what they do.
It's so insightful, Darlington, joining us here on New Ground on SiriusXM FC channel 157. You mentioned something, and I think Jalil really hits on something that is worth exploring, but how do you ensure that your kids have the same hunger for success to maximize their talents? That's really what you're talking about. Hey, you don't have to follow me and what I'm doing, but my expectation is that you're going to maximize who you are and your talents. When did you realize that soccer was going to be a ticket for you?
My wife and I were just having this conversation. Because when you watch your kids, you don't want them to struggle. But at the same time, the struggle is good for them. And I'm like, and I always tell her like, I don't remember a moment, where I wasn't like, I didn't feel like I was good at soccer. And she always reminds me like, well, yeah, there's a guy.
Yo, that is the most Darlington Nagbe flex you will ever get, ever.
Thanks, guys.
Listen, I don't know if y'all caught that. He said, I don't remember a time in my life where I wasn't good. I just want people to know that's what you said.
I know. I was expecting there was a moment like the skies parted, the sun shined just on him. He was like, "Look, man, I woke up. I realized it was a Wednesday, and I just realized I was a baller. Like it wasn't any. There was no epiphany. There was no burning bush. That's how it is, man. That is a Darlington flex. That is, Jalil.
I'm telling you, please carry on. But the people just needed to be highlighted on that little Darlington flex, because I know these flexes, but they may not know all the way.
Scalpel sharp.
Then my wife would, she'll be like, well, maybe I thought I was good at 10 or 11 or 12. She's like, maybe you weren't good and you just got, you just became better. I'm like, that's it. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, that's a chance. That's a possibility. But I just, that's just.
It's not likely this scenario, but you're being open. Like, I'll consider it. It could have been something like that. I could have been 6. Maybe I wasn't that old, so.
No, but the chance when I knew, probably when I was like 15 or so, I was like, oh man, like I can do something with this, I think at first you're naive, like, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm just gonna play here, I'm gonna play that. But then I think when I was 15, that's when I was like, oh, this is like a real possibility, and that's when I understood the work that had to be done, I should say. And then each step I took, once you go to high school, okay, you got to work a little harder. You got to do things a little better. Then you go to college. That's when I saw Steve Zakuani. I was like, oh, damn, this is another level. So like when I saw him, he opened my eyes to like, I was like, man, Teal Bunbury and I. So Teal and I went to Akron. That's when we first saw Steve, and we were like, man, like this is just like there's levels to this, Just seeing him motivated us. Yeah, man, Steve. Oh my goodness, man. I just talked to him the other day too. If not for injuries, who knows what he would have been doing, But when I first saw Steve Zakuani play, that was another moment where I was like, man, like I saw him go from freshman to sophomore and then get drafted. So in my head, I was like, okay, this is the path. At 15, I knew this is okay. You can be talented, but it doesn't just always happen. Like I said, things have to fall in place. Right people have to come into your life, right coaches, right systems. So many things have to fall in place. So I knew I had the talent, but then I knew these things have to fall in place as well for me to make it to the next level. And just seeing certain players, certain people I had, in my environment, and all those things kind of helped me become the player I am today. But I'll probably say when I was 15 or so, I knew I had a chance if things worked out and I did things the right way.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. No, for real. It makes perfect sense as far
we
as
were talking about Steve Jalil. How many episodes ago was that? We were talking about Steve.
A couple episodes ago.
Like, and we were basically
Alan straight up asked me like, who are some of the most difficult players you ever had to defend?
Oh, that's right.
Steve and I always talk about that game you had. I remember you were in Chicago, you went in Seattle, you're outside back, and Steve was the winger that game. Steve and I would talk about it sometimes.
Yo, he cooked me, fam.
That was our rookie year, right?
Yo, he cooked me, fam. That was literally I think it was like my second MLS game. I was like, no, let me get used to this first.
In Seattle, bro. Man.
Cooked me, bro.
Yo, he was unplayable, He was different. He was different.
Unbelievable. And the thing is that I was looking at Steve from miles and miles away. And because I went into the Sounders system and trained with them while I was in college when I was at Chapel Hill, and Steve was that dude. Like that was his rookie year, I believe. And he was already, maybe his rookie year or second year, but he was already like, yo, like people was catering to him in this big organization. I'm like, yo, and he's delivering on the weekend. He's delivering. So I was like, oh my goodness, this is unbelievable. Like that's Steve Zakuani right there.
Yeah.
Even though he was just in college. So, for me, D, you've always been a leader. But when we were young, coming out of college and you were just starting in Portland, you're definitely a quiet leader though. You wouldn't really, you definitely weren't the person that was going to do a team talk or anything like that. But as you have grown as a man, as a footballer, you've changed now into more of an inward leader, into an outward one that's carrying the culture of the locker room and setting the precedent. So with that said, we have something that we want to play for you, and we want your genuine reaction as well. And just talk to us about your leadership and how it's evolved once you see the clip.
Okay.
Now you're also playing with one of the best to ever do it on the field in Darlington Nagbe. What has that experience been like?
It was our first game, my first game with the club. And it was 2 minutes where we headed out, and Darlington was like, bring it in. I was like, oh, I never heard him speak like that. And he's literally crazy pregame speech. And I'm like, oh, shoot. This man different when he stepped across that line. So, Bruce would always say, guys, you're not going to steal the ball from Darlington, so just try to foul him. He's like, he's not going to lose it. He's going to complete every pass. Just try to foul him.
This dude is like the Batman of MLS. He got multiple sides, so people don't even be knowing for real that Darlington got tapped and he tucking his chain. I'm like, hey, who you trying to fool, dog? Let the people know was real.
That man tatted.
Hey, the tucking in the chain is extra.
Hey, for real though. If you ever do an interview with Darlington, make sure you untuck that chain. He ain't fooling nobody. So, you got your chain on or not? You wearing?
Hey, I got him on.
You see, I
every day, even when I'm in the house.
You got the.
I never take him out. In the games. They caught on to me in the games. I had to take him out now. They caught on to me.
It's not only have you become a top leader, but you understand how to keep it light, when to be serious,
Mhm.
all of those types of things, and you're extremely, extremely thoughtful and intentional about how you go about it. Every single game you analyze to the nines, almost to the point where it's like, yo, D, like it's calm, bro. Like, don't worry about it. It's all gonna work out. At the end of the day, though, your jovial side is, for me, the most refreshing part about your personality, right? So with this part of your career that you're in, how do you want people to remember you? Because you're a type of player and a person that people are already formulating what your legacy has been and what it will be to them. But what do you want your legacy to mean to everybody who has encountered you in football or otherwise?
I just thought I was a good teammate. I mean, obviously you come across, I feel like people are surprised when they, maybe not you, because we had some past history before, just showing love, but people that I haven't spoken to before they've joined the team, I think they always thought I was just very serious and just, all about the game and this and that, which I am at a certain point, but, trainings, locker room, I just try to make sure everyone has a good time, everyone interprets the game differently and it means something different to everyone. You can see the stress that it has on people. So I try to take that stress off of them, whether it's, on the field or off the field. And during the game, like I don't mind. I have no issue, taking the blame or, if someone's in trouble, I make sure that we show, we got to show for him. I'm big on that. Hey, if a guy's in trouble, we got to show for him. How can we help him? How can we support the play? And the same thing goes off the field. Okay, if you see someone has an issue, how can you, some guys don't like to talk, with big groups, but individually, if you catch them one-on-one, how can you have a positive impact on them? Like I said, just learning from every teammate that I've had, just seeing their behavior, I'm very observant. So pay attention to everything. If I see a guy is not himself, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, it's like, okay, what's going on with him? Might catch him solo, have a conversation with him, just those little things. I feel like once, people trust you and they feel like they can trust you off the field and then they see you on the field, they trust you on the field as well, I think it's just makes for an easy relationship, I don't have to call you every day, but I just let them know, I'm reliable. If there's anything you ever need on and off the field, just give me a call, shoot me a text. If it's an emergency, I'll reply right away. If it's not, my response time. But I was trying to be there.
Hey, Darlington, you be leaving people on 3 dots. You be leaving people on 3
man,
dots.
I'm bad, man. I'm bad. Me and Jock, man. But when you know me, then we carry on that conversation like that. We send 2 every day. It could be like, if it's an emergency, we'll just hop on the phone, pick it up. But if it's something serious we're talking about, like we're back and forth, back and forth. But if we're having fun or it's not too serious, we'll carry on that conversation slowly, let it marinate, go from there. But no, I just hope I had a positive impact on my teammates. Obviously, I've won with a lot of guys. I've been in a lot of parts, a lot of successful teams. But I hope I had an impact on how they view the game, how they view, teammates, and how they view life.
Darlington here, joining us here on New Ground. Part 1 of the 2025 Jalil Cup. You open against Columbus, Chicago. 15th season, 30th MLS season. What will go through your mind as you're one to express the gratitude for the journey? Is there a thought you're going to have before it really gets real and match day 1 gets underway? Just about sort of understanding where you've come from and where you're going. Do you give yourself that moment of reflection before you get into it? Or that's kind of more for the back end of the preseason and you're going to just take every game from there? Just give us a sense of what you'll be thinking here in match day 1 as the season gets underway.
Probably the same thing. I think the same thing, every training. I'll be thinking the same thing when, opening day or the last game of the season. It's training, I was just so grateful and thankful. But at the same time, I can't believe, that I've been doing this long and that I'm at where I'm at in my career. Getting the chance to play at home. It's not just play at home, but to bring 2 MLS Cups here at home. So just, the way my career has gone. But like I said, it's not just me. Just so I'm grateful, how grateful I am to the people I've been come in contact with. That's what I think about when I step on the field. Like, I've been with Adidas my whole career, even those little things, I'm so grateful for everyone, Columbus, Atlanta, Portland. So year 15, stepping onto that field, just thinking about everything. My family and kids are always in the stand, they get to see me. And because of that, my kids think they can be whatever they want to be. So thankful for this game, people it's brought in and out of my life and the lessons I've learned from it. So I always think about these things when I hop on the field to go train, I train how I play. So for me, it's not just that game. I think it's just every single moment that I step on the field, whether it's a game or a training or just messing around.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
it's the
Fire.
realest. Yeah, it is. It is. And Darlington, we just want to thank you so much for joining us here ahead of the first match day of the MLS season, and you are truly someone who's inspiring this generation of players, these young cats, listening to what they listen to, dressing how they dress, all those kind of things along the way. But I certainly want to make sure that everyone knows how much respect that Jalil and I have for you on and off the field. You carry yourself in a way, and literally is someone who could get a statue in Portland, in Columbus, in Akron, right? In Atlanta. You've done it in such a way that I know your family and your little man right there, everyone should be very, very proud of what you're doing. So we just thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, man. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Welcome back to New Ground. We close out our show with our favorite segment, Flowers, our chance to show love, respect, and excellence for those in and around the game doing amazing stuff. And last week, shout out to the father-son combo of Marlon and Kellen LeBlanc. Kellen LeBlanc getting his first international goals for the U.S. youth national team down in Costa Rica. This week, I am splitting mine. One near and dear to my heart for a couple of reasons, and one just a good guy doing good work. This week, my flowers, at least part of them, are going to Daryl DK. Daryl DK is back with West Brom after a another long, prolonged injury layoff. He is back. He is fit. He is healthy. And as I shared with him, it's great when beautiful things happen to beautiful people. His struggle is real. And as I told him, the chapters in his book are still to be written. So really appreciate Daryl, what he's doing. Congratulations to him. And then my other flowers going to my very own, someone who shares my last name, a lot of love to Sienna Hopkins, who had an amazing freshman year wrestling for Camarillo High School, made it to CIF. And I am so proud of the person she is, the competitor she is. And we talk a lot about the bonds that we share as soccer dads, and I still very much wear that cape, but it's a lot of fun being a wrestling dad. So I appreciate Sienna, what she's doing, and she put everyone on notice. So we're looking forward to next year. So shout out to Daryl DK and Sienna Hopkins, my very own, getting my flowers this week.
That's amazing, man. And say a little bit more about why her freshman year was so successful.
You know, soccer's a family business for us. It
Yep.
has been, and it means a lot to Sydney, Santiago, myself, and even Sienna. But Sienna decided that she had a different vision for herself. She's one of the best young attackers in Southern California, and less than a year after picking up the sport of wrestling, she wins 30 matches as a varsity as freshman, won several tournaments, and is really, I think, carving out a niche for herself. But I think the thing that I love the most, though, Jaleel,
Mhm.
is the self-reliance, and you can't hide, you can't cheat the grind, and it's just a lot of fun, and it's stressful. It's hard watching your kid compete in that sport, but I just love who she is and what she's about. And the real flex, Jaleel, and I know your dad would appreciate this, your mom as well. In
Mhm.
her freshman class of over 550, she's ranked number one in terms of GPA and
Ooh.
academics. So the family business is good. It just has a little bit of a different feel from the outside, but I appreciate you guys giving me room to give my little dad flex for sure.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's a vibe. So my flowers are going out to every single member on every team out there that controls the aux in the locker room. The reason why, selfishly, because that was me for a lot of my career, but also it's typically the person or the people in the locker room that connect everybody, because you're playing stuff that means a lot to you typically, or stuff that you listen to in the car, but you also have somewhat of a reverence in terms of what vibe the team needs. What songs transcend either cultures or, the meal tables or X, Y, and Z to get everybody cracking, to get everybody flowing and thinking subconsciously or consciously in the same accord. If you like me, you rely on vibes anyway. You can't come into the locker room and it's downward energy. You need it to be up. You need it to be just right. It's also how, a lot of players get that energy, especially during preseason or right before you're about to step out on the pitch, that makes you feel like you can do impossible things. So the aux is extremely important. The vibes can never be off if you're trying to do something amazing. So shout out to all the people in every single locker room that understand exactly what themselves and their teammates need as far as the aux energy is concerned.
You know, Jalil, I would have definitely trusted you to rock the mic, if you will, the aux cord, and because you have to speak to everyone. And if you think about you being able to sit at every table in the meal room, but I'm sure your playlist was for everyone, allowing everyone to get locked in and vibe out. Another great show for us on New Ground. There are so many conversations to hear, to watch. Subscribe to our YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Our handle is at New Ground Show. And as every week, we want to thank everyone who helps us pull this together. New Ground is executive produced by Stefan Heraldo, our New Ground team of Megan Fontenot, Krista Mann, and our music director, Mayzin. Don't forget, you can listen to previous New Ground episodes on the SiriusXM app. For Jalil and Anibaba, I'm Allen Hopkins Jr. We will see you next time on New Ground. As always, thanks for listening.